And his opponent in the northwest position, spawning as the blue Terran player, he is MaSa.
When I was initially looking at the lineups and I saw that these two were going at it, this was a really tricky one for me to be like, okay, how are these games going to go? Because I feel that I kind of know how McCanning is going to play. Like, it's going to be a lot of sensible Protoss, not anything too crazy or wild. But MaSa, he is absolutely the kind of guy that can throw anything at all at you, be it like proxy. I was thinking, is he going to do some weird mind drop into Thor Rush kind of stuff? Honestly, I had no clue. But so far, he looks like he's just playing very sensibly and kind of looking for what could be a proxy Stargate or something like that. So really kind of respecting his opponent within regards to, hey, you could absolutely cheese the crap out of me if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things we got to keep in mind, right? Because I think the cheese factor is something that MaSa is definitely known for, right? When it comes to things like proxies, proxy barracks, all that sort of stuff. And MCanning is like, he's kind of known for doing out there things, but it's less in the form of cheese, you know what I mean? He's the kind of guy that'll do a 9 Dark Templar Blink meme build or something of that kind of sort. And conversely, here we have MaSa proxying, as was foretold.
Yeah, this proxy as well, this could lead into a lot of things. Like, he's getting his reactor at home, the Marine killing the probe. That's always nice for you. And then you get the reactor on afterwards. And MaSa just being quite diligent with his scouting. But yeah, that proxy factory, that can lead into a few things, be it your Hellion drop, your Widowmine drop. It can be a lot of things. And McCanning right now doesn't really have any idea, but he's good enough to know that something might be possible like this, because as I say, he plays a lot of ladder.
Yeah, there's definitely no end to the amount of shenanigans that one will run into just grinding it out, especially Terran players love mixing it up with these sorts of builds so that if you ever play them again, you maybe feel you have to play a little more safe, and then they can do a kind of greedy build sort of deal. Like, you have that bit of ebb and flow, but especially with the highly aggressive North American build meta. Not surprised to see little the Depth Scout comes in. There's the Marines just kind of chilling, but you don't really see everything that you want to see. That shade, the factory, it's like, oh, could it have been tucked behind a little bit, right? Is there a reason to believe that the factory has been hidden or the starport, right? And that, I'm not 100% sure that he knows that this is going to be what's coming towards him. So the Hellions should have a pretty quick and direct access path to MCanning's base, but his warp gate will be finishing sometime around when that medevac should be reaching his base. So I think it's going to come down to the positioning, right? For defending this. If he's in the main, maybe he'll get caught off guard. There's, it either goes spectacularly or terribly when you do these quick Hellion plays.
I'm so worried for McCanning this game. Like, I'm so worried. He's got one Stalker out on his side of the map. Warp gate did just finish, but this, I was just thinking about.
Oh, does he have vision here? Where he's going to unload? Oh no.
This is just a terrible situation. And now, these Hellions, no probe pull whatsoever. And he's actually letting one get surrounded by the probes. Oh, but is snuck out. Now the one Stalker that he has, even a sentry afterwards as well. This is a terrible, terrible start for the can.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal. 14 probes. This is exactly what MaSa wants. If you get a heads up on this and you try real hard to get those extra stalkers out earlier, you can deal with it. But not only did it hit the base that one stalker, as you mentioned, wasn't watching, but he didn't have any vision at all. He had no time to react until the Hellions were already in the mineral line. And knowing MaSa, he's a guy that loves to continue to bring pressure up in situations like this. Look at this Widowmine positioning. I don't know that he can hit probes from there, but if anything runs up the ramp to try and catch him, he might be able to hit that. And I think what you do, let the Hellion do its thing, maybe dance it around microgrid if you want, get the medevac out, keep playing ball. That Widowmine! Oh, that's just...
Salt on the wound, Nate. Salt on the wound. I mean, it could have been a more brutal shot, which is maybe the silver lining for McCanning, but I'm looking at that work account, and I'm like, that is meant to be the opposite way around in this matchup almost, and even then it would be a terrible situation. This is not good for McCanning, and he went from... You know, the build that he chose here, it was, I'm going to call it a little bit greedy. Like, just literally relying off one adept for scouting, then one stalker. Normally, you like to warp in a few stalkers or rather build them out of the gateway, but he was like, you know what, I'm fine. And then built a sentry or warped in a sentry as well. It was, yeah, he was just hoping and praying that nothing like this happened, but he's against MaSa, man.
Yeah, and if MaSa is playing on the ball, we know that he can be a very strong macro player. He can just kind of just builds Marines and Marauders and tries to bash people to death. He loves pulling SCVs. Not as much the kind of guy that's like, yeah, I'm going to sit back and just play with like Ghosts and Liberators. Honestly, I thought he might have tried to crank a Liberator out of that starport with how many probes that he killed earlier with the Hellion drop, but he's instead just kind of he flew everything back. He's just like, okay, I'm going to focus on getting to that mid-game army composition and leverage the economic advantage to just kill him without having to take this one too long. So we'll see as that bio ball is going to reach the handful of stalkers outside here. He's trying to pull back the little weak ones, not too much. Just has one medevac with these units, so you do have to be a bit careful. There's no way to save all of them if he gets jumped.
It's actually quite nice by McCanning because we see that his army is, I mean, it just got a little bit better, got a little bit bigger, but MaSa is so far ahead this game, like in every way, shape, or form. The fact that he was able to, or McCanning was like that little fish that, you know, looks bigger and scarier than it was with those stalkers, and managed to kind of fend off that army with a lot less than he had. Oh, these stalkers, if they get that medevac with those 8 Marines in, that would be the start of something for him.
Yeah, definitely possible. He immediately starts to unload when he sees the stalker, MaSa that is. So even though they were here, they do kind of delay it from being able to do anything. They're not quite able to get that grab. And now 2 medevacs flying over towards the main base, couple of stalkers being warped in. There is the disruptor that we've been talking about. There's one at that third base like you're mentioning. We've got another one about to pop. At the same time, you got to be a little cautious when those bio units are next to the probes. There's a good grab. Gets that medevac actually as it tries to unload in the natural. So able to limit the area of focus to just this main base mineral line, and he's still going to lose a couple of his stalkers. I think he's trying to get the medevac here. The disruptor almost got targeted down, and he is going to be able to grab that, but at the cost of everything else. So MaSa trades away a good chunk of that supply, but oh my god, 3 Widow Mines burrowing in that mineral line. These probes, 8 of them get blown up, Ben, with the last hurrah of this harass from MaSa.
If there was a story for this game, it is that MaSa hates probes, and like, you know, 30 probes have fallen so far in an 8-minute game, and MaSa's just marching everything across the map, taking a 4th CC behind it. Like, he's macroing really good. I gotta say, he's a little bit reckless, but it's working out for him. And McCanning so far, he can't keep up. And disruptors, they're great in fighting, but when you're dealing with these drops here, there, and everywhere, they're not the unit you want.
No, not at all. And this is just kind of that cascading effect, right, from the beginning of the game when you're able to get those probe kills. Protoss, they're, you know, the way that the game's designed, you're supposed to get that worker count up because the Terran has mules, and when the Terran kills that many probes that early on, the mules are no longer for staying even economically with the Protoss. They just vault you super far ahead. And that's where it just coming in blow after blow. As long as MaSa keeps the pressure up, as long as he keeps attacking, it's always going to be difficult for MCanning. However, if there's one thing that we know about the can, it's that as long as he's got a disruptor, he's got a dream. You know, it's going to have to be a kind of a miracle hit or two, but we have to just keep our eyes on that as the game progresses. Stalkers blink over real quick to try and grab these medevacs. Does get to completely unload both of them. Gets the medevacs, however. There's the shield battery overcharge. Mine's going to drag some damage onto the Marines. And that army at the third base trying to get around these disruptors. But MCanning so far just doing his best to hold on and try not to lose these bases. But the Marauders have cleaned up the units in the natural, and he has to bring everything back over to the third. I think both of those disruptors are on cooldown to Muslim.
Yeah, and MCanning getting here on the high ground. I mean, the disruptors, unfortunately for them, they can't shoot off. The Colossi kind of called out as well. This just goes from bad to worse. That Pylon, in fact, he's going for the Forges now, denying those upgrades. The disruptor shot, though, hey, that's pretty juicy.
Oh, okay.
They just chose to, you know, be friendly all of a sudden.
Little Zealot counter harassed, getting some SCV damage done. MCanning closing that worker gap, which is great on paper, but the supply, the army supply, is still a huge problem, a 40 gap, and he's warping in Dark Templar on the other side. So he is going to continue to try and just cut off parts of this army, continue to reinforce, and simultaneously put that counter pressure. These disruptor shots, filthy, absolutely filthy out of MCanning. The Muslim, I didn't think he was about to wipe that whole army that quickly, but these are the kinds of moves that are going to open the door of opportunity for our boy. Maybe not so much the 5 zealots that just got popped by those mines.
Yeah, a little bit risky there. Oh, okay, this is a MCanning special, by the way. I've played him so many times where I'm like, I'm doing so much damage, right? And then DTs run into absolutely every base. Hey, this damage is starting to mount up pretty feistily, and the disruptor shots, hey, he's doing good. I mean, a minute ago,
we don't have a 60 supply gap anymore to Muslim.
No, yeah, a minute ago this looked terrible for MCanning, but he's absolutely finding a way back into this game, and it absolutely takes two to tango in a game like this. But holy crap, is MCanning finding a way here?
Yeah, well, maybe at the end of the day we find out that MaSa is the one with 2 left to peek here. 18 SCVs slaughtered as that +2 attack boots up for MCanning. Keep in mind, we talked about those forges. He only picked off the one that was researching the armor upgrade. So he's a little behind there, but the armor upgrade is probably the least important one when you're playing with Robo Bay based tech, right? He's got the range on the Colossi. That extra damage is still going to provide a huge amount of value. DT came in again, got a bunch more SCV kills. This is, wow, this is a hell of a turnaround so far. I don't think it's in hand for MCanning yet, but he's definitely brought this game back to an even footing from the earlier phase, at least as close as he can.
Absolutely. Like MCanning or rather MaSa kind of ran to his death in a lot of these fights. Just the disruption shots almost look like they were magnetized to these Terran units. But yeah, MaSa, he's not going to slow down anytime soon. He's kind of recouped, recollected. Now he's got to deal with this Colossi squad, which, this disruptor. That was, again.
MCanning disruptors, man. Don't sleep on them. The Colossi shooting at just that one Marauder, I think, is probably the biggest issue with this battle right now. He's kind of lost a lot of the damage output that he could have had. That may cost him, as the Colossi are tanked. That Widowmine drop got a couple of probes in that natural expansion, but there's nothing here to defend that third anymore, except these 2 disruptors. Gets a great shot. There's the overcharge, lands another one, but there's still, I think, just too many bio units here to be routed. MCanning with 19 army supplies going to tap out, and MaSa takes game number 1.
It's got to be said, MCanning made that a lot closer than it should have been. Like that early defense against the Hellions, or almost lack of defense, it really kind of sealed the deal. But MCanning managed to pounce back into that game. That last fight, by the way, MaSa focusing not only the disruptors down, but the correct disruptors as well. That was actually very clean by him at the end. MaSa, or rather MCanning, going forward, just needs to like recollect himself, just maybe make sure that he's a little bit more what's the word, a little bit safer, because trying to get out that kind of tech and go to 3 bases off 1 stalker and then go for a sentry third, it was definitely some of the greediest Protoss build I've ever seen. And the thing is, MaSa, he's the kind of guy that's in your face. That's where he wants to be the whole time. So I think he picked the wrong opponent to be so cheeky against, actually.
Yeah, no, that's it's so crazy too, because everything has to be observed in the context of the way that opening played out, right? The medevac got in, 3 Hellions unloaded into the main base. MCanning had no vision of it. He wasn't able to get an adept inside the main base to read that information. There was no hallucinated Phoenix that went in and was like, oh, there's no tech here. Maybe I should be worried about something. He just had that 1 stalker, and that was not enough. Considering the way that he played from that position, which was still quite admirable, he did almost bring it back. I have to say, if he's able to avoid taking early losses like that in game number 2, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be able to roll that into a much heavier advantage once he has those robo units out. But we'll have to see, because Oxide is definitely one of those maps where I think MaSa especially will be looking for a really big, heavy all-in off of, 2 bases, 1.5 sort of deal. Maybe SCV pull. This is the map for it, if not any of the other ones are.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what both of them bring to the table. So far, MaSa did. In fact, they both showcase what they're known to be good at. Like MaSa with this kind of onslaught of aggression and the kind of weird builds. McCanning, he was really good with the disruptors, man. He really was. Anyhow, spawning over the bottom left-hand side of Oxide, it is MaSa.
And his opponent, spawning in the northeast, the red Protoss player, the American, he is MCanning.
Well, I do hope he gets to find his rhythm in this game, because McCanning really can be a very, very solid player. Obviously, starting off the game by losing, how many pros was it? Like 15-ish to a 3 Hellion drop?
About 15 to the Hellions.
Yeah, that's just brutal. Like, no matter how good a player you are, coming back from that is ridiculously difficult. This game, thus far, MaSa did open with a barracks, then a gas, and then he's going for a cheeky eBay block. And I do like the way that MaSa is approaching the series, just by doing stuff that can throw his opponent off.
Yeah, well, he's just trying to be annoying, right? This is like he knows that he's not the most powerful fighter in the game, but he has those moves. He has like that little drop spin kick on the feet, right? That if you don't know how to play the game, he just keeps knocking you over and just tries to chip away at you, sort of deal. Force extra mistakes, build a little bit of frustration in the opponent, because the engineering bay block is not. It has not been deemed or crowned with some sort of, hey, this is the greatest thing that you can possibly do, especially since opening Cybercore before Nexus it's now kind of like the standard default, right? That's almost everybody does it, and you'll see it a lot. So you don't lose as much, but having that Nexus delayed is still annoying, because you feel like he's gonna throw down a Nexus and a pylon there, but MaSa did not fast expand behind this. He's got a factory on the way. I think the probe just walked past the SCV on the way back home. But if I'm MCanning, I'm still, you still got to be thinking about him proxying something or throwing some early attack at you.
I'll be honest, Nate. I'm watching this, and so far, McCanning's response is exactly, as a Terran player, what I want them to do. I see that Zealot attacking the engineering bay. I see that those 3 probes attacking it for a while as well. One of the best responses, I think, these days is using the probe and building the 3rd elsewhere. As soon as you see this response, it's like, oh, okay, he's just kind of delayed himself, and I didn't really have to do much about it. And yeah, MaSa can definitely look at this one with a little bit of a smile, I feel, so far. Weird of him to not go for reacted Hellions as a response, though, especially seeing that minerals were wasted on this Zealot.
Do you think that's because he didn't take the natural somewhere else? Because I feel like one of the reasons why you would do this is to get them to take a more exposed base as the second one that the Hellions can get into more easily.
It's, I mean, it could be. It's just seeing that Zealot, like if that Zealot has been forced, it means there's going to be less Adepts, less Stalkers, just less of things that actually do deal with Hellions. But I am curious about what McCanning's follow-up is going to be, because he's getting the medevac, obviously. He's getting the Marines out and stuff. And this Zealot, he's just kind of useless, man. Like, gets a little bit of a scout off here going down. But, yeah, you are right in the sense that if you do have a more exposed base, it's good. But Hellions with a medevac, they don't give a damn where they go. It's just about whether you have the right amount of units to deal with.
Fair point. He's going to do the mine drop instead, trickling them out while he had those Marines building, and he's moving the Marines out too. So I don't know if this is maybe bring the medevac over towards the main, pull everything up, and then drop the mines on the ramp so the Marines can't be attacked as easily. I don't know if that's what it is, or if it's just a standard schmandered 2-prong push trying to just be a little bit annoying. But we're about to find out. The Phoenix hallucination definitely got some eyes on that. Mines are going to be dropped. We do have Stalkers being warped in. Mine's going to get one of them with the shield battery there. The other mine gets a single probe, I think. And that will be cleaned up. So what? Got a Stalker and a probe for both Widow mines and I think 1 or 2 Marines.
And the double Reaper follow-up, which absolutely was a mistake by MaSa. He did cancel them, but that was a lot of gas taken up there that he couldn't produce anything else. And I think he was like, huh? I can't produce another tank? What's going on here? But he did realize it before they were made. So definitely MaSa showing that maybe his build order, or at least a few nerves here, making the wrong units, but then realizing. But yeah, maybe the build order wasn't the best one to go for. But McCanning going into Robo Bay on 2 bases.
Well, I can't say I'm surprised by this. It is MCanning, right? whether it's a Colossus or a Disruptor first, this is his bread and butter. I kind of expect to see this out of him. I think the fans expect to see this out of him. MCanning definitely did some work with those Disruptors, and I don't know, maybe this game it'll turn out differently. He has that 7 worker advantage. He's been pushing out those probes as best he can, and who knows, maybe if the Disruptors or the Colossi are able to get some fights where he's not, economically crippled from the early phase of the game, things will look a little bit better for him.
Yeah, certainly. Like MCanning's definitely not as in bad a situation as he was in game 1, that's for sure. But the Raven, I mean, that's a definite shutdown of all those robo units. So MCanning definitely has to be a little bit worried, but he is getting the scouting that he does so definitely need.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff we were talking about that last game. Like if you have that awareness, if you're able to see where their stuff is, that's always going to be useful. But I see those siege tanks in production, DeMuslim, and I know MaSa, he likes to be aggressive, those big pushes. That's something that MCanning is going to need to think about. The robotics bay units, if there's one thing that Terran is going to have at this early in the game that can be really effective, it is those tanks. You can zone away the Colossi a little bit. You can zone away the Disruptors if they get too close, and it kind of gives you that anchored position that makes those, you kind of have to have charge lots almost to try and attack into that. But the Twilight Council has only just started, so we're still a little ways off that. I'm not 100% seeing anything that suggests MaSa is going to move out soon, but maybe he's just going to wait for that like 2-3 tank count and then try to go find himself somewhere to make a move. He always loves to attack. It's almost too obvious of a call.
Yeah, and he's going for, this is kind of like the Hero Marine medevac. Hero Marine's one of the only players that I see doing this every time he moves out against Protoss, especially in these kind of like 2-base situations. It causes way more havoc than you'd ever like to admit as a Protoss player. This Observer single-handedly slowing down this push and also spotting the push, which is pretty important. But that charge, MCanning actually went for +1 on the Forge way before he went for charge, which is definitely an interesting choice. I want to see how that pays off for him.
Yeah, he's starting to siege up on top of this ramp. When we talk about Oxide and the strength for Terran, it's pretty much this. It's cutting off this pathway between the natural and the third, being able to box somebody in. And this is where it gets weird because he tries to unload that medevac. Not 100% sure about that one. The Raven has yet to drop an interference matrix, but there's a drop in the main. So he's trying to set up like a little bit of a 3-prong push, but that drop in the natural, I mean, it was obviously a little bit close to where the main army was. So he was able to deal with that a little bit more quickly. But MaSa is really just going to try and stretch MCanning's multitasking as thin as he possibly can. Use the siege tanks to cover the drop in the natural over here. And presumably, if these Colossi try to go up the ramp, either cover with turrets or interference matrix so they can't fire.
This is such a gnarly position for MCanning to try and deal with, because those tanks, even though, they're not doing incredible, he's now sectioned off into the natural. And yes, he has the high ground, but he has to deal with these tanks. And that is not what you want to be doing. And MaSa still has that Raven with full energy here that can disable everything. It's actually going to be very, very dicey. He does pop the overcharge, which is doing a good job at units at the back. And now he retreats. I actually love this retreat from MCanning.
Yeah, I mean, he got a couple of the tanks there. And while, yes, the interference matrix stopped the Colossi from attacking, those tanks, they didn't need to be killed by the Colossi. There were enough zealots that they just tanked the friendly fire damage from the rest of these back on. And I think this is why we see a lot of Terran players that do these types of pushes try to throw bunkers in. That's the F2 key. I think that medevac just flies right over the army here, unloads its cargo and dies with the rest of it. But definitely seemed like he was not expecting MCanning to have that many units out. And yeah, I don't know, kind of a strange choice not to bring a few SCVs and maybe build a bunker with that.
Yeah, MaSa is absolutely displaying chaos, but it's not super thought out chaos, right? Like that drop, you talked about it, like wasn't sure if it was the best move. You were totally right. Absolutely wasn't. Got shut down before it began. The drop in the main was great. So there's absolutely sparks of brilliance, but there's also just, I'm going to attack you. And yeah, MCanning's shown that he's more than capable of handling it, actually.
Yeah, that siege tank getting caught on the back end there, too. Medevac boosted to grab one of them, couldn't get the other. Every little bit counts a lot here, especially with the cost effectiveness of some of these units that MCanning's got in his army. Liberator harass on the backside should buy him some time. Gets 5 probe kills for his trouble. And well, there wasn't really anything there to deal with it. So he's going to warp in some stalkers now. Well, that's a little bit late. And he's going to have to keep that in mind on that third base too, where the Liberator is just watching it and waiting for some probes to come over for it to siege and blow up. MCanning, 2 Colossi and 2 Disruptors. Like, can he attack this, Ben?
I mean, he can from this angle. This is a really... Oh, not like... Okay, gets rid of the Raven. That's actually not the worst trade in the world. And the Disruptors, they actually keep the army at base. That's not bad by MCanning at all. He also has a Dark Templar on the far right side, which is going for the natural. I dare say. And he's got one in the main. He's got one in the main as well. This is actually going really well for MCanning.
It's you're 20 minutes into TVP and chill, and MCanning's got DTs in all of your mineral lines while the Disruptors are keeping the army at bay. And all of a sudden, we're starting to see why. Well, people in chat are calling MCanning their bay. To Muslim. 21 SCVs popped. He's got that third base complete and secure. I do believe the Liberator tried to go back over towards that natural, did get picked off, killed a Stalker. So not too shabby. MCanning gets his third, dislodges the Terran third, and buys himself a good deal of time. I don't think MaSa will be able to move out again that easily, but he's gonna try and make a play on this third regardless.
I mean, what else is he going to do? Sit back and let the Protoss take 4 bases? It's a rough spot, you know? Like, he's already got a few Disruptors, which you're not dealing the best with. It's only going to get bigger, especially when you're playing against MCanning. That being said, it's like MCanning's done a good job of bouncing back into this, but even though he killed 21 workers, MaSa was still pretty much equal in the worker count up until like the last few seconds, which just goes to show that MaSa's fundamentals of building workers has been very, very solid. Okay, where are units dying? Probes are dying somewhere.
He's got something by that third base, actually. Liberator sieged up on that again. 4 of them were killed. The rest ran off. Warps in a couple of Stalkers. He's going to let the Stalker tank all of it so he can get back to mining. He is not focus firing. But, he warped in a third Stalker. That's not doing anything, and the rest of the army's showing up, Ben.
I mean, that Liberator, I can't believe it's getting this done. Maybe the most useful Liberator of all time. 14 probes and 2 Stalkers, but a run-by going on the other side of the map. I mean, this is scrappy as hell.
Yeah, Zealots are going to charge on top of the bio. He's hitting from the east and hitting from the west, as Kaliris would say. Getting the surround on this. The tanks unable to kill the Disruptors. And MaSa, okay, well, he killed a bunch of probes, Ben, but the amount of army supply that dropped was huge. And I think this is a moment where MCanning is going to say, maybe this is where I can close this one out. That third base has a lot of SCVs on it. If he can just push this army back and get some harass going, I think that's going to be huge. These Colossi are going to deal unholy amounts of damage to those workers. Careful though, missile turrets getting some shots in. Not something you get to see every day.
Absolutely not. I think the last time I saw a missile turret kill a Colossi was back in Wings of Liberty when Kevin didn't know that missile turrets could hit Colossi. But here we have the bio. Just doing its job here, just sending home the Protoss army, but the disrupt shots. I mean, that was more Zealots dying to that one. This is absolute mayhem, chaos. But MaSa, he's totally reset here.
Yeah, this has been such a scrappy, bloody game, a bloody game. Ben, I think is the way I'm going to describe this. He's getting another DT coming in. 3-3 upgrades are on the way. That upgrade advantage huge for MCanning, and he's going to take game number 2, tying things up. Well, if there's one thing that we can say about MCanning, it's that he's a showman. And despite all complaints to the contrary, I'm proud to be biased for him. And perhaps this was his 300 IQ strategy all along to Muslim. Take a couple early punches and then come back strong in round 6 and 7. He looked really good when you don't kill all of his workers in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, he's going for the Rocky approach, you know, taking a punch in the face here and there. Like, he really got slammed that first game, but he absolutely showcased that he can play a solid game. And once you weather the storm against MaSa, which is kind of what he did, MaSa just, it felt flimsy, right? It was like a kite on a windy day. It was flying real high and real fast, but there was like almost no control behind it, which, yeah, I think this is what happened the last time I saw MaSa as well. Like, there's definitely these flickers of a bright light, but then there's also like, MaSa, this is a little bit crazy. Like, are you flying into this base? Like, you got one tank supporting, and that drop is just flying into a whole Protoss army. It's yeah, definitely definitely a lot of pace, a lot of speed, but not necessarily the cleanest of play from MaSa. But third map will be light shade between these two guys. And if momentum's anything to go by, McCanning definitely looked pretty pumped after that second game.
As he should. He played a fantastic round on that map, and especially we talk about the strength of that map for Terran is those tank pushes. That's what you do. You cut that space off. You have a high ground area. The only way for the Protoss to try and break out is usually go down a ramp. That's just never fun. You need to have that vision. You need to have an observer there or something on the other side of that high ground that won't die, that can give you that vision. And that's not always an easy thing to get, but he didn't really commit, for a guy that was going to siege 5 tanks and keep his whole army there. I think that's one of those reasons why when you're watching at the highest level, you'll get those Terrans that will build the bunkers, completely lock it down. They'll build a whole damn base outside of your base because they know that if they keep that position, the game's over. Your third base is just screwed. It's going to be stuck on the outside, or your natural, wherever the army is stuck on the other side. You're going to have to attack into like 4 bunkers, 5 tanks, and then you die. But without that extra little bit of support, MaSa kind of tossed that opportunity out, and we'll have to see how he tries to bring things back. Light shade, we're going to be seeing those open thirds, right? But at the same time, still a lot of airspace. So maybe medevacs, maybe liberators early on come into play again. We'll just have to wait and see, ladies and gentlemen, as we are loaded in. And in the bottom right, we have the red Protoss player. Tied things up. Can he close it out? He's MCanning.
And spawning in the top left as our blue Terran, representing Skystorm Gaming, it is MaSa. So I don't know how much you played on Europe recently, Nathanius, but the only person that types GL have fun in that sort of way, as in that little green emote kind of thing that pops up, is a fella named Genies, which Genies is a 90 APM Protoss that is well into GM, like 6k MMR, but he's also the cheesiest sod of your life. And playing against somebody that writes GL have fun in that way, fear is immediately instilled in you. And McCanning plays in Europe, and he probably has played against Genies. So yeah, I'm feeling scared for McCanning, honestly.
Just off the emoticon in the chat, that is the exact deep analysis of why I love commentating with you, to Muslim, because I was about to say that I was gonna say the spray meta is another huge part. MCanning is one of those Protoss players that will always make sure to drop that spray on you. We've seen it before where I think he had like a 40-minute slugfest against Scarlet or someone. Just dropped like 7 cheese Protoss little probe spray guys right outside the base. Likes to play the mental game. Some people don't really care. They don't put the effort in. They'll just type GL or FU or whatever it is that they like to type in chat at the start or end of their games, or just pause it. But MCanning is someone that you usually see put that extra level of effort in, but MaSa bringing it out definitely shows. He's here for blood.
Certainly is. MaSa went for the eBay block along with a Reaper. Definitely unusual. He's obviously playing a little funky in his builds here, which I like it. It's not necessarily what I super expect from him, but yeah, when you're not playing full time, you can have your own swing on things. He's still very dangerous. Okay, we'll get out of there. The shade won't be able to finish. That's one thing about Protoss. They should have the shade so it can just finish up instantly whenever you want it to, I think that would be a nice change.
Oh, if you could just manually finish it early.
Yeah, like, pop up now, Nice and balanced.
Why do you utter such words into existence?
Well, so I was slightly rooting for McCanning just then to get that Reaper kill. I realized,
okay. Well, as long as we're being biased from McCanning, yeah. Well, honestly, I don't understand why Adepts can't shoot up in that case then too, because in co-op they can. And frankly speaking, MCanning kind of lives on a level above the normal 1v1. He should have all those units in his arsenal.
Yes, this Adept. Anyway. This Adept. First,
pro
moves. With the shade.
Pro gamer moves to Muslim. He's not even killing the 1 HP Marine. The disrespect.
I do like the fact as well he was blocking it with the shade, just getting out of range of the bunker. Doesn't take any real damage there, so Yeah, we can definitely smile at that. That was nice by McCanning.
I'm like, the Marine was right next to the Adept. I don't know. He's just trying to be a little bit respectful after that, the clapping, I guess, in game 2. Some of these Marines moving out looking for that Adept, but he's keeping it safe. Doesn't want to risk it. Doesn't want to throw it away. At least not yet.
We talked about the GL have fun having psychological effects. Well, McCanning is striking back. Letting that Marine live, that was a power play. Like, come on. Like,
oh, I see.
I'm going to let it live. You need every unit you can get. And the mind games have started. The mind games have started.
Yeah. We're going to have to activate our totems and check that we are not all in a dream within a dream. Typically, I don't know about you, Ben, but most of my StarCraft-related dreams do actually have MCanning in them. So for all I know, I could just still be sleeping snugly on the bed with my golden retriever laying on my face, suffocating me. But I want to believe this is real because I'm seeing some fantastic play out of our Protoss. Now, can he keep it up as MaSa is going to bring this drop over with some mines? I think that pylon should have been able to spot the medevac. Will he react in time? There's the drop.
Oh, pretty swiftly, actually. Pretty swiftly. But, 2 Stalkers for 2 Widow Mines? That is not the kind of trade you're looking for. And I just saw it on McCanning's face. Yep, he definitely wasn't happy with that one. But this is
unfortunate there. Yeah, you want... I feel like you're okay with letting the mine kill 1 probe, but there's always that fear that it's going to, drag the shot to all the other probes, especially with worker deceleration. You're not always certain where they will exactly stop their movement. So nice pickup there. It does make it so that medevac could continue to be alive and continue to be annoying. And MaSa maybe will just save that for a later opportunity when these Stalkers are pulled away for, I don't know, maybe his first push, first big move out.
I'm actually loving the mix-up by McCanning here because MaSa, he's a smart fella. Like, he knows that McCanning loves his Robo, loves his Colossi, loves his Disruptors. But this game, he's actually not against Colossi or Disruptors. Like, it's going straight into charge lots, which you don't want to be making tanks against that. Ideally, you want to be having Widow Mines and stuff. So the fact that McCanning is switching away from this image of himself, it's actually very good play by him because MaSa was trying to blind counter / hard counter him, but it's not going to pay off this time.
No, absolutely not. Hallucinated Phoenix goes through. You see a couple of the tanks. That Raven is worth keeping in mind. The potential for another big push type thing is very much on the table. MaSa loves those big 2-base attacks. Or hardly a player you'll see rush up to a 3-base armory macro setup.
So I was loving McCanning's play about not going straight into the Colossi Disruptor stuff just because he is against like tanks, and I feel this would be one game that you could go against that inner demon in you telling you got to make the Colossi or the Disruptor, because if he just had a lot of units, like a lot of Zealots and stuff, I think he'd have been looking pretty good. Now I'm starting to get very worried for him, actually, because MaSa is marching across the map.
That is a huge army. And yeah, the Robo Bay only just finishing does get a cancel on the 3rd immediately, which is a nice grab, but this army is still, it's gigantic. And the first Disruptor is on the way to Muslim, but is it going to be out in time? He needs to, you want to try to, I guess, force sieges, right? You don't want to let him get into that position too quickly, but at the same time, fighting against this is going to be really hard, especially with that Raven full energy. You got to deal with him shutting down those Immortals, possibly armoring the Zealots, etc. Even auto turrets probably wouldn't be bad here, considering how small MCanning's army is.
Auto turrets would actually be really good. I mean, obviously the big one is anti-armor missile with the amount of bio that he has, and it is against a lot of Zealots and stuff, but now, that Disruptor gets locked down there. This Zealot flank kind of comes in but doesn't help. These Protoss units have no idea what they're doing. They're all just dancing around. Let's load up the unit loss tab. It is terrible for McCanning. It just felt like he totally mishandled this situation.
Yeah, bit of a rough go of it here for MCanning, as that early harass ends up becoming another thorn in the side again. A big tank push move out, and like you said, the Raven energy just so well used. Tries to get that another Disruptor shot. It looked like it would have been good, but excellent focused fire by MaSa with the tanks, neutralizing the Disruptors, and that really is what makes it so tough playing in this kind of defensive position where those siege tanks are comfortably tucked far, far away from where any attacking units could be. MCanning down 74 to 122 supply. MaSa's got a bunker up here to Muslim. How How does MCanning ever break out?
I mean, he can't, and he knows it. And GG, MaSa takes the series 2-1.